Hey you, I'm Sarah Turner. I am a freelance medical copywriter who left the 9-to-5 world to work for myself, and I am often asked what a typical day looks like as a copywriter, and it definitely differs from person to person, but I've spent a ton of time researching and working on my mindset so that I could make my days more effective and enjoyable, because the last thing you want to do is quit your 9-to-5 and then leave your old boss for a newer, meaner, scarier boss, yourself. And so I just have some things that I've put in place to keep things exciting, keep things feeling fresh, and, making sure that you continue to love your work when you leave the office. So it took a few years to kind of nail this process down. Let's just start with the fact that when I first was working in a 9-to-5, I used to have to hit my snooze button 10 times. No joke, I had multiple alarms set, probably almost 10 alarms set. And I could not get out of bed in the morning. But because of all of the things I've done to rearrange my life, I actually jump out of bed most mornings at 6 a.m. And I can't even really sleep in anymore. And I really attribute a lot of that to my morning routine. So I'm going to start with my morning routine. So for me, my morning routine is a little bit of a process, right? But basically, I make sure I start my day with intentions and gratitude, and making sure that I'm putting my business first and not my client work, because that makes me, honestly, it makes me a better worker for them. So my morning routine, first I use airplane mode on my phone most mornings, because honestly I have poor self-control, and if I don't have my phone on airplane mode, I will roll over and check Instagram first thing. And that is something I do not want to be doing, because then I'm literally spending my first waking moments looking at Instagram. So what I do instead is I crawl out of bed, I make a cup of coffee, I do some gratitude journaling, which is really amazing. And having gratitude for where you are in your life today has been a really big practice for me in just seeing things in a more positive light. I've struggled with depression, I've struggled with anxiety, and I really believe that gratitude journaling has helped me with both of those. So after that, I do meditation and mindfulness work, where I either meditate for 15 minutes, or if I've just read a book, I read a lot of Joe Dispenza, and sometimes he'll put out meditations. I'll try and do one of his meditations. And then I try not to, this is another key thing for me, is some days are better than others. And when I have a bad meditation day, that's not even, doesn't necessarily need to be considered bad. Maybe not such a great one, but I try not to judge myself for it. I just move forward. I'm that wasn't my best day, because that's the big thing for me when it comes to meditation and mindfulness, is just not judging yourself for it. After that, I do mindset work, where I actually have some affirmations and some value-aligned goals that I go through, and those change throughout my life. So those are constantly shifting, but I make sure I have my newest ones in front of me, and that really puts everything that I'm working on with business and in life, personal stuff is in there too. It's not just all about work. That's at the forefront of my mind when I go into my day, and I think that is so important to starting to notice things that are going to help you further along on your process. And then I try and do a little stretching. This doesn't always happen, but I like to do a little stretching and get some endorphins going. And then, so this probably takes me, an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours to do all of that. So I'm not even really starting to get to work until actually usually around 9 a.m. still, or 10. Sometimes I get in a little later. And the next part is that I always, and I think this has been one of the best things I've implemented in the last 3 or so years, is I always focus on my business for the first hour. And what does that look like? That might mean fixing up my website, reaching out for testimonials, cold emailing new prospective clients, looking for future work, or working on a project that's going to grow my business. Creating a post in a Facebook group of ideal clients so I can help them and really start to build my reputation among my niche. Following up with prospective clients. So this means not checking quite emails yet, but if you have cold emails that are going out and you want to start following up with some of those, that's when I would work on this. Watching a webinar on something I'm trying to learn that's new, or taking an online course. I'll set aside an hour, make sure I devote some time to doing that. Writing pitches to publications has been a big one for me. So this always looks a little bit different, but like the key is to make sure that first hour of your workday is devoted to you and your business, because truly that's where you're going to start to like grow and develop as a freelancer and an entrepreneur. So this means I'm not even checking my emails until like 10 or 11. I have no notifications on my phone, which has been huge. And I even sometimes you can pause or turn off your email so you just can't even see it. And this is the time where I actually finally sit down and check email. When I first started out as a freelancer, I would make the very first thing I did at my day, after waking up and checking Instagram, I would check client emails. But what that does is you end up spending like that first hour like responding to emails and scrambling to like get stuff to them. And it really distracts and, disorients your time, right? And the thing about that is it's not really effective. So I really like to batch my emails too. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it for an hour. I'm going to put it away, and then I'm going to come back at like 2:00 and keep working on it. The other thing is I also had to get out of the mindset of thinking that if I didn't respond to my clients right away, I was doing something wrong. So whether or not I respond at 9 a.m. or 11 a.m., like that really doesn't matter. That is only a few hours time difference, and it means everything for you if you're putting your business first. So it really was hard for me to not respond to clients first. So now I just have a 24-hour rule. I say I'm going to respond to all emails within 24 hours that they were sent to me, and that's been a good policy. It gives me enough time to respond to people, but it also doesn't make me a slave to their emails. So right after responding to emails, I get to work on my to-do list, which actually I write the night before. So that's something that's been really, really helpful for me, is to always write my to-do list the night before. Usually it's like at the end of my workday. And when I write my to-do list, I make sure that I put the biggest thing that I have to do at the top. So that means I'm tackling the scariest stuff first. I tend to want to do the least scary and the easiest stuff first so that I can scratch off a lot of stuff. So I just make sure I get one big one done first. Then I can move on to the easy stuff. I'm totally the kind of person who's like going to put shower on their to-do list just so that they can scratch it off, by the way. So when you plan it the night before, you can also make sure you have a clear idea of like really what's important and what should be at the top of that list. Also, filling this out or like creating a to-do list the night before really helped me with my anxiety. Knowing that when I was getting to work the next morning, I wasn't like, what do I actually have to do today? I knew what I had to do. So it really helped calm me down and let me like ease into that. So I'm all about reducing anxiety and overwhelm, and planning out the night before is so big for that. So after I've done emails and whatever my big to-do list is, which might actually be to write, by the way, I start writing. So I usually have 1 or 2 pieces I'm working on in a day, and I try not to have more than 2 pieces because I just kind of think that's too much. And I give myself plenty of time. So I really love to listen to music, always without words. I love some lo-fi hip-hop. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's pretty amazing. And that's really good for when I need stuff to chill me out. Like maybe I've had way too much coffee, or I'm feeling a little nervous or anxious or something. Put some low, calm music on. And then if I want to amp myself up, listen to a little EDM. There's some crazy YouTube playlists that are like epic movie soundtracks, which make you feel like a damn gladiator if you're into that sort of thing. And those can help me if I'm kind of reluctant or not really excited about writing that day. And then when I start to write, I put my phone back on airplane mode. And I also use this app called Self-Control, which is on your computer. And that will make it so you can put in things like Instagram, Facebook, and things like that. And I put those in, and it makes it so you can't visit it. And what's crazy to me is how many times I go to open a browser and I automatically type in Facebook without even thinking. When you have self-control on, it really draws your attention to just how much you do that. And the other thing about airplane mode is like phone calls and text messages are super distracting. And anytime I'm sitting down to write, it's really like a big thing for me to get into the mindset. So anything that's going to pull me out is going to just make it harder for me to get started again. So I just kind of like try and limit where that's going to happen. I also give myself time limits. So I say like 20 minutes to work on a headline, 30 minutes for an outline, an hour and a half to actually write the thing. And this varies by project, and it takes some time to get used to it, to know what is going to take you an hour, what's going to take you 20 minutes. But limiting yourself is going to prevent you from going down like the rabbit hole of research and perfectionism, because at the end of the day, you can still be thinking about this piece. So like if I have a piece that's due on a Friday, I'm going to actually probably write it no later than a Wednesday. I'll probably write it the Monday, the Tuesday, or the Wednesday. And when I limit myself, the thing is like I'll start to think of things like later on, like maybe I'm out eating lunch, I've been working on this piece, or I'm in the shower, and it will just come to me. I'll be like, oh, you know that headline I was working on? I should probably like add this word to it. So, you know, it doesn't really help what I have found is it doesn't really help to just sit down and hammer something out for an hour or research for 5 hours, because if you don't give yourself a time limit, you kind of just can go forever. And that's the thing about being a writer is you got to know when to stop. You got to know when to stop messing with it. I think that's pretty common in like a lot of art. So anyway, that's time limits on things, making little mini baby goals throughout the day. And so I typically write between 3 and 5 hours a day, and I take breaks here and there. When I'm like, but once I'm like starting to write, I pretty much like stay pretty focused. I usually eat lunch at my desk. And again, that's mostly just because once I'm in the writing mode, to break it and then to come back is a little bit harder for me. And towards the end of the day, like 3 o'clock, I check my email one more time. I make my to-do list for the next day. And I just kind of plan out strategy for what I want my life to look like in business. And I try to make sure I do another like period of reflection. So I pretty much only write I'm at like work or whatever from like 9 to 3 or 9 to 5. And I'm committing actually to making sure I don't work a 40-hour work week right now. So, but when I was starting out, I for sure worked a 40-hour work week, and sometimes I worked a little more. I was writing well over 3 pieces a day. And that was a little brutal, but I really wanted to get my business off the ground. I really wanted to establish some solid relationships with clients. And then I, make sure I check in with other copywriters too. So I spend some time each day, usually in copywriting Facebook groups, and just connecting, seeing what other people are doing, reading about my industry, and reading books at night usually about writing. So I pretty much eat, live, breathe writing. And I find it's really easy to do that because like when you can just set your news feed, for example, on Facebook to just like all entrepreneurship, copywriting stuff, you kind of start to just take it in like through osmosis, which I think is really great too. So yeah, it's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward, and the biggest thing really is to just make sure you're putting your business and your like skill set first. So that means investing in yourself, and that's going to make you a better copywriter every single day if you just keep compounding on that. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will be putting out videos each week. So if you've got something you'd like to see, go ahead and leave me a comment. And thanks for watching.